Do you want to go for a walk? Come on then. Easter is a joyful time of pastoral coloured eggs, adorable bunnies, and enough chocolate to induce a coma. But beneath the surface of this seemingly innocent holiday lurks a misty past filled with ancient blood rituals, pagan fertility, and enough mythological weirdness to make your Sunday brunch feel mildly cursed. So grab yourself a Cadbury's egg, clutch your wicker baskets, and let's dive into the dark origins of Easter. Ooh.
Analyzing the news.
So what does Easter represent to you? What's the meaning behind it?
I don't know the meaning behind it. I just know that you give kids Easter eggs and they just eat loads of chocolate on Easter Sunday.
That's right, but there's more than meets the eye. There's a dark lurking past in relation to Easter and the Easter bunny. Now, if you knew what Easter was really about, it'd blow your socks off. But you're going to find out. Before Easter became a Christian holiday, it was essentially a pagan festival which was soaked in fertility, blood, and probably some very questionable hygiene practices. The holiday is often linked to esoteric or Ostera, which is a Germanic goddess of fertility. Ancient pagans, particularly in Europe, celebrated the spring equinox with grand festivals and dedicated to rebirth, the return of the sun, and a whole lot of animal sacrifices. So when you think about family picnics, it's nothing like that, I can assure you. It's more like the bloody Game of Thrones with all these blood rituals and anarchy. So just imagine it's the Game of Thrones with a load of flowers sprinkled everywhere. That's more what the origins of Easter would look like back in the day. What's that you picked up?
Oh, them there. I don't know what they are.
What are they? Oh,
See them? Those of them.
oh, they're pretty, aren't they? So if we enter the Roman murder, resurrection, and the PR problem, as Christianity spread like an unregulated TikTok trend, the church had a bit of branding issues because pagans had all these fun fertility parties while Christianity had a guy getting nailed to a cross and coming back to life 3 days later. Not exactly the light-hearted vibe that they needed to convert the masses, but it worked. So why did the church do that then? Well, they did what every great institution does. They borrowed, stole, the pagan traditions and repackaged it for themselves. Easter would now be about the resurrection of Jesus Christ, and instead of sacrificing bunnies, which honestly was never a great look, they encouraged people to focus on the whole entire life part of the story. Now listen, this was a brilliant move. People love a good comeback story, and Jesus rising from the dead was the ultimate underdog victory. Plus, it kind of conveniently fit the springtime theme of renewal. Okay, so you've got blood, bread, and body of Christ. Of course, the tradition wasn't seamless. Early Easter celebrations were still pretty grim, and the medieval church had a thing for self-flagellation, whipping yourself for religious purposes, and that still goes on. Did you know that? That's what goes on in some cultures. They still whip themselves, thinking that it's going to bring them closer to God. Maybe it does, but maybe it doesn't. Then there is the whole eating the body and drinking the blood thing. Communion, where Christians consume bread and wine symbolizing Jesus and Jesus's body and blood, has always been a little unsettling. In some cultures they call it the memorial. I know the Jehovah's Witnesses call it that. Now, from a purely outsider's perspective, Easter brunch suddenly sounds more like an ancient vampire cult gathering together, and nothing good can really come of that, can it? Okay, let's wait for a second. Where does this bunny come into it? Now, you might be wondering how the hell did a fluffy, non-threatening rabbit get tangled up in all of this? Well, it's simple, because fertility is not the same. In other words, hares have been fertility symbols for centuries because they breed like crazy and pagans worship them. And early Christians, despite to keep some of those fun old traditions, let them hop along for the ride. And over time, the hare has turned into the Easter bunny, which is a magical creature that lays eggs, which is biologically concerning, but we'll just ignore that fact for a minute. By the 18th century, German immigrations brought the tradition of otterface, which is an Easter hare, to America, and Christians would make their nests for this supernatural bunny to lay eggs, because apparently no one in history understood how mammals work. Commercialism took over, and that's why now you have to spend at least $20 or £15 on a hollow chocolate rabbit. That's very disappointing. It's all consumerism. They want you to buy the product. So yeah, we get that anyway, don't we? So chocolate, the sweet distraction from the dark truth, and basically that's exactly what it is. And speaking of chocolate, let's not ignore its role in Easter. What better way to distract from a history of blood sacrifices and ritualism, as well as self-harm, than consuming and drowning in lots and lots of sugar. You have to be aware that chocolate became associated with Easter thanks to the Victorians, who loved taking anything vaguely religious and turning it into a sugary treat. Because in the 19th century, chocolatiers began producing chocolate eggs, and from there it was only a matter of time before capitalism took over, which obviously completely changed everything. And today the holiday is less about Jesus rising from the dead and more about how many marshmallow peeps you can eat before you question your life choices. When you think of Easter, you think of chocolate eggs. You don't think of the blood. But the truth is, that's what it's really about. Now the real resurrection, capitalism, wins again. Modern Easter is a Frankenstein's monster of different traditions. It's part of a pagan fertility festival, part of Christianity and the Holy Day, and part capitalism. Sugar binge, basically. The holiday that once involved sacrificing animals, worshipping fertility gods and goddesses, and enduring extreme religious suffering, has now been reduced to a pastel-coloured marketing bonanza. You have to admit, it's kind of funny. Ancient people covered in rabbit blood to appease the gods would probably be confused and mildly horrific to see us now. If they look back at us now, they think, flipping heck, they're taking a mick. Okay, so next time you bite into that chocolate bunny, remember you're indulging in a tradition that once involved human suffering, animal sacrifice, and ceremonies and centuries of religious politics. With that said, Happy Easter!